Bam! Welcome to another episode of Mike Sports. I'm Eric, joined as always by Landry. Landry, how you doing?
I'm full of food and ready to talk.
All right, that's always a good thing. So, obviously on field, not a whole lot to talk about.
Right.
Football would be in their off season anyway, but you know, no baseball, no hockey, no basketball. Although hockey and basketball seem like they pretty much have their plan. It sounds like basketball is going to come back with sort of a 10 game regular season sprint to the finish, and then the playoffs.
Right.
Which I don't know how I feel about that. I think they should just go into the playoffs because teams that weren't in the playoffs, like the Chicago Bulls, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the hell reason they got to show up and do anything in any of these games.
Right. What do you think? What do you think about James Dolan's comments on what's going on at the Knicks?
What did he have to say?
He basically just said, "Look, as a Knicks organization, we're not educated enough, or we're not the right people to be speaking about what's going on with the protests and whatnot." Of course, people jumped on him. Some people sided with him. I, for one, sided with him. I don't think everybody needs to be the voice of reason just because they're in a position where people think they should do so. I thought he was smart for basically saying that's not in our education will. We leave that to the politicians.
Yeah, I certainly don't blame him. Look, in one way, that's sort of, just avoiding the topic, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know something, like, I'm tired of this idea that you have to assume, like, you have to,
You have to have a position. Everybody thinks you have
yeah,
to have a position on something.
and you
Because
have
if
to
it means so much to
regurgitate
them,
whatever the popular opinion is of the
yeah, if it
day.
means so much to them, how could
Yeah,
it not mean so much to you? I'd be like, that's because we're different people. I guess you forgot about that part.
right. And look, you and we love football. Like, but do we expect everybody to get wound up over the same issues about football as we do?
Yeah, yeah. So now we got Colin Kaepernick's popped up with everything going on, saying somebody should sign him. The Vikings should sign him. I don't know where this obsession came with Colin Kaepernick because number one, his last games weren't very good. Number two, he's been out of the league too long at this point. Move on.
Yeah, do I think there might have been something to him being blackballed and to teams not wanting to sign him? Yeah, I think there might be.
So I think
Um,
there was, but I agree with why there was. Some people think there was, but they think if there was, then that's a travesty. And I'm like, no, I'm okay with it if that's why he wasn't let back in the league. He's a distraction. He's a ratings demoter. I was like, the league is mostly conservative as a fan base. They weren't favored of it when polled. Over 80%, or I think it was like 78% of the people didn't like the distraction that he caused or what he was bringing to NFL.
mm,
I mean, dude, when your fan base overwhelmingly speaks like that, I don't care if your league's 68% black or not. It doesn't matter. Your fans are the only reason why you have a sport. They rule
now,
at the end of the day.
I'll ask, do you think if polled now, he would get the same results? Like today?
I'll say plus or minus 5%.
So you think it's still going to be around the same spot?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm a big look. Anytime it's over 50%, even if it's 51% for, 49% against, whatever, that's still too much of a fan base not happy
Mm,
with something, in my opinion. It's one thing if 10% of the people are like, look, he's a distraction, but 90% are like, look, we're okay with it. Well, then okay. But if it's in the 50%, if someone told you today I'm taking half your paycheck, that's a big deal.
sure.
Right? Well, the NFL looks at like our ratings took half a hit. Or the teams
Mm,
might go, we might lose half our fan base who might start watching the games from home on TV and not want to pay ticket prices because they don't want Colin Kaepernick getting favoritism or whatever it is. And remember, I was a huge Colin Kaepernick fan for a very long time, but he
yeah, it
crossed
was
my
funny.
support.
I was really surprised when you took the turn that you did.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it wasn't necessarily his stance. I think it was his maturity about the stance really bothered me. During
yeah.
practice, he wore socks with pigs on them. Like, just the stupid stuff just made me go, dude. And then he wouldn't even talk. He let everybody else talk for him, but he never got in front of a
Mm,
microphone. That really bothered me about his character. The way he talked about his parents who adopted him because they were both white, the way he acted towards them after all they've done for there was just too much immaturity. it's not even really the issue with him. I don't really like Colin Kaepernick anymore as a person after watching those types of things. He, to me, kind of character assassinated himself.
Yeah, I get that. Like everybody now is glossing over the whole like the pigs in cops uniform socks. Like that. I mean, that was just distasteful. Like look, obviously, I don't think anybody thinks that what happened in Minnesota or any instance in which the police overstep their force and cause a death to someone, like in that kind of instance where there didn't need to be one. Nobody stands in favor of anything like that.
Yeah, look. I mean, I think there's a philosophical difference between sports fans about what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Where some people, like, we may talk about something in one context and they talk about it in a total different context. Nobody in their right mind is going to look at a cop put his knee on a man for 8 minutes and go, "Yeah, that makes
Right.
total sense." Right? We all. I don't know anybody who logically puts that together and goes, "Yeah." What I will logically say is the people who are saying everybody should be guilty were all a part. Dude, one man's actions does not dictate. Not to mention, statistically, more white people are killed by cops wrongfully every year than blacks. I don't hear them speaking up for the whites that are killed. That bothers me. That shows a sense of bias, to my opinion. But when it comes to the individual cop, look, all that. But when it comes to sports, it's totally different to me because
Right.
sports is our getaway, and they're trying to make our getaway part of everything else. And I don't like that. I don't want anchovies and ice cream blended together.
Yeah, and I think by and large, that's been what you've gotten from audiences when they've been polled.
Yeah.
Is they don't like they take the issue seriously and they want it dealt with seriously. They just don't want it. They just don't want it to bleed into their getaway time, and that's what sports is. And I think it's part of why people are so charged the way they are now is we've not had an outlet for a while.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I think had this happened during regular time, non-COVID, everybody's dying to get out. Oh, give me a reason to get out and protest. I've been cooped up for 2 months. Give me a reason
Yeah,
to be loud and proud and out breathing fresh air every day instead of going to work. I mean,
yeah.
people are
Like
all
I think
about
it
it.
would still have been a big deal in Minnesota. I think that probably would have still happened.
Well, in Houston, because the guy's from Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um.
Did you know that? I don't know if you know that.
No, I actually didn't know
He's
that.
from Houston. Yeah, he's being buried here. George Foreman is paying for all his funeral services here in Houston.
That's a nice gesture.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, obviously, we think in this. I don't want to say we. I think in this situation, this guy clearly overstepped and clearly, needs to be punished for it. And I've heard that the charges all got upgraded against that cop and the other officers there.
Yeah, and I'm not in agreement with taking down the other officers. I'm a very you're an individual for your actions. I'm not a guilty by association person. If I was a lawyer, I would be defending the other three with that thing like, hey, I can't defend the guy who had his knee, but the other guys were thinking the cop's doing his job to whatever he thinks is best, and they're just basically keeping crowd control outside of him.
Hmm.
So I'm not with being complicit and all that kind of stuff. This wasn't like everybody got together and said let's rob a house and everybody entered the house. This was everybody
Right.
standing around, and people are mad because they should have intervened. Yeah, maybe, but that's just a lack of judgment. That doesn't make you a murderer. The guy who had his knee on his neck for 8 minutes, the guy was already handcuffed. He's already on his stomach. You don't need to do anything further. Having your knee there just because you can, and with the guy asking you, telling you can't breathe, logically that makes no sense. But outside of that, I disagree with all the other ramifications.
Right. And now I've had conversations. I have a lot of family members that are police officers, and that's one of the things that that in talking to him, he says to me, hey, like that's one of the easiest things. Guy says he can't breathe. You've got to let up. He's like, and look, if he tries to get up and do something, then obviously you have more provocation to keep him
Sure,
down.
and it's usually all on body cam, so it's not like
Yeah,
you're going to get in trouble if in the end the video shows the guy came at you.
right.
You know.
And that's another thing he said too. He's like, they got body cameras. He's like, why are you doing like?
Yeah.
He's like, it's ridiculous.
It's just a cop made a really bad decision. He's going to pay
Yeah.
for it, and we need to look at it as an individual act. Like when it comes to Colin Kaepernick, I look at Colin Kaepernick and I'm like, I don't judge all the other football players that might support your cause. I judge you for your individual actions, your pig socks, the way you
Mhm.
haven't come to the microphone, the way you talked about your parents. I don't care if Reed and a couple other guys agree with you. I don't think they should be blackballed. I think you should be blackballed because of your attitude and what you bring to a locker room. That's obviously a distraction that the league clearly doesn't want. Or let's say the league office, the NFL wants him in, but let's say team owners don't. I agree, and I'm okay with that.
See, to me, it still comes back to if coaches and management believed that he could help them win games, then they deal with whatever distractions needed to be. They
True.
didn't feel like he could help them win games, and so they didn't want to deal with the
Well,
distraction.
in his little workout that he did, where he refuses to like work out like in front of an NFL team, he wants to do his own like at high. This whole like trying to control the narrative of everything because he's so scared that if he
Right.
does, the narrative will be controlled in the opposite view. Well, dude, it's been shown that your way doesn't work. You're not getting any more opportunity with your way, so why not try it the other way at this point?
Right. I mean, yeah, I don't understand the way he's controlled, tried to control. It's so clear to me. This is a case of both sides wanting to control things. The NFL wants to control it, and they want to have it on their schedule and in their facilities. Colin Kaepernick wanted to have it in his. And look, in that situation, the league's always going to win out because it's like, okay, you don't want to play by our rules. We got 100 other guys behind you that are
Right.
willing to play by our rules.
Well, look, in my background, my education is psychology, so I look at the psychology makeup of what's going on and whatnot, and in
Mm-hmm.
the end, there's multiple drivers. There's personalities involved. There's corporate structure involved. There's finances involved. There's fans involved. So there's a bunch of variables that go into the situation. But in the end, when it comes to your own career, only you control that, not the NFL. Like you said, if you were playing your best ball and you weren't distracted with other things and you were at the top of your game, and all you cared about is football, and people felt that, then you'd probably be the quarterback of a team. But nobody feels in the league that is your ultimate priority, so no one sees you as a starting quarterback, and you don't like that persona. Well, you don't have to like it, but that's the way it is. You know.
Just like when Carson Wentz was coming out, and it was clear the Eagles were trading up to draft him. I had an opportunity to speak to Mike Mayock, and his words to me were, "Eric, you'll love this guy. Literally, all he does is hunt and play football.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not going to have to worry about this guy going out for beers at like 3 in the morning.
They said the
You're not,
same
yeah.
thing about Michael Vick, but had no idea it was dogs they was talking about.
Wow. I mean, maybe Carson
He
hunts the
said all
dog.
I do is hunt and play football, and he said I hunt in my backyard.
Well, I mean, when they said, "Oh, he's just hunting in his backyard," what's the problem?
Look, and I'm a big, the reason I bring up Michael Vick, that's my
Mhm.
segue into it. Maybe one of the best one, but my segue was to go to, I'm all about forgiving,
Oh, sure.
transgressions by football players. Or let's say I think it's a transgression, other people don't. Ultimately, let's say it's at 50-50 or whatnot, but I'm all about like your second chance. Whether it be you did something wrong or you did something wrong by opinion, whatever it is, I still believe you should have a chance to prove yourself.
Hmm.
To me, Colin Kaepernick does not take football seriously enough for me to consider him someone we should give another chance. That's my opinion.
And I share that opinion. And like, it's clear the way this game is. You can have all the talent in the world. If you're not going to put in the work, then it doesn't matter like
Yeah.
how much talent you have. You're not going to make it. And like, to me, if you're putting in the kind of work that is necessary to put in to be a successful quarterback, you don't have time for this crap.
Yeah. There's a lot of what it comes down to me, is sensitivity versus life moves on.
Hmm.
It's from my psychological perspective. You have the people right now, like Dabo Sweeney's assistant coach used a racial slur. So he's apologizing. People are upset about it. I'm a very who gives a fuck what your words are. I care about what you stand for with your actions. You can get mad and throw a fit and cuss your wife out or she cuss you out, whatever. But at the end of the day, once y'all get down, your emotions calm down. How do y'all really feel? What are you really getting down to, brass tacks? Because in
Right.
the end, that's what really matters. We are in a climate where we have half the population who believes you should watch everything you say, you be sensitive to every kind of climate, to every person's needs. And then you have the other people going, fuck that. Structure rules, systems rule, life moves forward. Stop hitting pause for words. And I sit on the side of words aren't as powerful as people want them to be. They're only as powerful as you let them be, in my opinion. Very different concept. And
Hmm.
I think right now the league is struggling with two kinds of populace that are a part of their fan base, and they sometimes they over cater to one, and sometimes they pull back enough to please the other. I think not letting Kaepernick back in the league is an owner's choice, not a league choice. I think that's pleased the conservative fans. I think that is the league would like to see him, but they can't force a team to take him. And then you have the other side of the fans who would like to see him re-entered. And again, it's all about perception.
Well, you
Everybody calls this
remember.
a battle of equality. I
Mhm.
don't. I call it a battle of power. This is for power. This isn't for equality, right? Because in the
You
end,
remember
you're
the
not getting a
Ravens,
voice just so you can feel even. You're
right?
getting a voice so you can have a place at the table, and a place at the table is power. Very different.
Remember the Ravens had Colin Kaepernick in for a workout, and it looked like they were going to sign him, and then his girlfriend like mouthed off on Twitter. I think like basically equivalated Ravens ownership to like the plantation owners,
Yeah, yeah.
and
And
it
here's
was
the problem: Colin Kaepernick needs to get on a microphone and correct that himself.
right.
If you want
Hmm.
when someone else makes a racial slur or something, and it doesn't matter because even when you make it against white people, you can get fired from a job. Look at the girl from
Absolutely.
ESPN was all about hating Trump and had all these racial things to say, and they let her go. The point is that it's either a zero tolerance. It's not only a certain race gets to be about it and not. It's either we don't want it across the board, or we gotta be okay with it. We all have feelings about
Right.
it. We can all say it. It's one or the other. And the league is struggling because the league always tries to be neutral because when you're neutral, you please everybody. I'm,
Sure.
I'm not a big fan of pleasing everybody, obviously. If
Well,
anybody knows my
oftentimes
live
if you
coaching
do
channel,
that, you
Coach
end up
Landry,
pleasing nobody.
on YouTube, by the way, um, I'm all about Pitt taking a stance. And to me, Goodell is more liberal, certainly,
Hmm.
than the previous commissioner. Right?
Yeah, exactly, Boo. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely is more liberal. So there's lots of things like this going on in the league right now. With the Dabo Sweeney thing coming out, I think that came out today, if I remember correctly. It might have been yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was today.
But my
I
point is,
just read about it
as soon as
today.
I read it, I was like, who cares? Who cares? Because at the end of the day, man, if he's a good coach and he's always treated the players with respect, then who cares about a slip up with a word? Or even if he felt like that for 10 seconds, if we all were honest with ourselves about how we feel sometimes about other races or other cultures, we all get aggravated with them. Why? Because we're all not a perfect fit. We're not Legos. We don't just all snap.
Hmm.
It takes massaging, and sometimes it takes two people recognizing each other's culture and ways to understand each other, and that takes conversation. That's not an instantaneous thing all the time. I always say it's not racism; it's culturalism. It's our cultures are different. It's not our
Hmm.
skin is dividing us. It's the way we see the world, which is a cultural difference.
And I think it's something that maybe isn't recognized enough. That it's not just like it's not about color of skin. It's about what the way you were raised, your culture, yeah, in your surroundings. Like some people grow up in a very victim type mentality. Some people
Right.
grow up in a very individualist like mentality.
Right, and that's it's called your in psychology we call it your
Yeah.
home culture. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean you have to be like a part of a culture from a country. It means any
Sure.
group you're a part of, whatever culture y'all have created amongst each other, it may be different from the rest of the world. If I'm white and I walk into a poor all black neighborhood, I'm going to be
Mhm.
judged right away.
Sure.
If I'm in an all white neighborhood and a black kid walks in my neighborhood, he's going to be judged right away. If I walk into a very poor Latino community and I'm like white with a business suit, I'm going to be judged right away. There's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that. It's called we come from different cultures. What's wrong to do is treat them different once they're trying to like have a conversation with you or like, hi, how are you doing? And you're like, oh, don't talk to me because of your color, because of your culture.
Right.
Your need to shut down communication, not give them opportunity, them not give you opportunity. All that's what's got to go. But the fact that we think that being judgmental is wrong, I'm like, join the human race. We've been doing it for since 10,000 BC. You know,
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that happens. It's how you carry those judgments into actions
yeah.
that's where the problem
It's
is.
okay to mentally let them cross your mind. What's not okay
Mhm.
is to actually execute them amongst people. Because the reason, like I always say, why we have manners? People, what's the main purpose of manners? It's so that everybody in the room can be on an equal, comfortable field. It's there to
Right.
create comfort universally in a room with people who normally may not do things the same way. Your dinner fork's on the right, You sip this first. You have your salad first. That's so everybody's accommodating a universal rule for comfortability. I think the league tries to make it comfortable for everybody, but what the league doesn't understand is you have a lot of cultural difference in your league. The only difference is when they put on the helmet, we don't know what anybody looks like. We don't know how they
Yeah.
feel, what culture they come from. That's why what people want to keep sports like. We want to be shielded from everything else so that we can run our system productively and enjoy the game. For God's sakes, a football game's 3 hours long. Well, they're trying to make it shorter, maybe 3.5, kind of commercial. The point
Yeah.
is, why do you feel such a need on the outside to bring and break up a 3 hour event because you feel it's so important, because you feel like it's your stage, because you feel like it's important to you, because of your leverage as a football player, whatever it is? The point is that any business in the real world would fire you if you took company time to do personal things. And that's logic. That's straight. That's corporate America. Now, some companies might go, you know what? I believe in your cause. I'm going to support it. Unless you know that, then you should expect ramifications from your company. Period.
Yeah. And look, at predominant, most of these guys have never participated in a corporate environment,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't know that. But that's where they need to be getting more guidance from their agents, guys who have been a part of the
Yeah.
corporate
Don't
structure.
tell them they can't protest. Tell them if you're
Advise
going
them
to protest,
how to.
yeah, tell
Yeah.
them, hey, there's two ways to protest. Number one, don't do it on company time. Company time is considered game time, practice time. You want to stand outside of your stadium when practice is over? If you want to not show up for work that day and just stand in the parking lot and protest, okay with it. But if you're going to come in my
Yeah.
building on company time and protest, then you are a fired employee or eligible to be fired employee, in my opinion.
Yeah. And if you do that and you aren't fired, consider yourself lucky.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, and if that makes players more comfortable with a certain owner or organization, hey, ask to be traded there, ask to be drafted there. But until then,
Hmm.
follow the rules wherever you are, because that's what all of us grown ups in the world have to do. We don't get to cry foul because we feel something. We get to cry foul on our own personal time. And no one will tell you, no, you're not allowed to protest on your personal
Yeah.
time. But on company time, they have every right not to let you in the building. And that's why, to me, Colin Kaepernick was not going to be let back in the building, because he wasn't simply doing a silent protest or whatnot. He was using company time to take care of personal matters.
And it's funny, with this whole rioting and causing problems, and now during all of this with the COVID thing, like I made the joke to somebody, can we go back to the kneeling national anthem thing? I'm much more cool with that than destroying cities.
Hey, yeah, man, there have been videos that have surfaced. There's a black guy standing outside of a store going, "This isn't protesting. Y'all burnt down
Right.
my building. You took my computer." He's like, and he's a black man saying, "This is hate what you're doing." Martin Luther King would have never stood for this. He's like, "You guys
And
are."
that's the thing. We're missing guys. We need a Martin Luther King
Yeah, we
instead
do.
of
We need a
right now.
we need a guy more peaceful. Look, you know, violence worked at a time on this planet when the Vikings were around. Or basically, if you want something, you better come and take it. Otherwise,
Well,
they're gonna.
forced change. That's what that really
Yeah.
is. It's forced change. And look, that can work or it can not work. And when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work.
And this whole apology tour, I don't like this whole apology tour of, oh, you
Mm.
said this, you need to apologize for that. I said, if you meant that, stand by it. But just say, hey, next time in context, if someone would talk to me a little different, or if I was having better communication, I might have chose my words differently. But that's how
Mm.
I feel, and I'm okay with that. And if you don't like it, that's okay too. Maybe we should have a conversation about our differences, right? Because you
Sure, yeah.
can't ask Americans from back in the day and go ask Britain. You cannot legislate morality, and until you understand that, these protests are a big just waste of time. They think you can channel morality and make people stop saying racial things and whatnot. That has nothing to do with it. You want to stop? You want to stop putting knees on necks? I'm okay with that. I don't want anybody
Absolutely,
doing that.
yeah.
I don't want a white
Mm.
man with another white cop on his neck either. I don't want anybody under that. I don't want any human
No,
in that
absolutely
position.
not.
If you're handcuffed and already on your chest, nobody needs to be on your neck. They got you. Unless your
And
name is
especially if
Osama
you're
bin Laden.
verbalizing the "I can't breathe," you're offering an opportunity to let them know, "Hey, look, dude, like I'm not trying to
And
resist
for
you.
eight
I just
minutes.
can't
For
breathe."
8 minutes. This wasn't
I
like
got
the
you,
dude
bro.
did it
No,
for 30 seconds. He just at a certain point, he just thought it was the better thing to do. If I keep my knee, you can't go anywhere. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, that's just ridiculous. Someone tells you you can't breathe, that's the first sign. And number two, at some point, take a mental check with yourself. I've been on this guy for 8 minutes. What am I doing?
Right.
Yeah. Like, this is plain
Yeah,
stupid.
when you were at like 7.5 minutes, what did you think 2 more minutes was gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. Or 6 minutes would be 2.5. But I think,
Yeah.
you know, this is all very convoluted, and people make this very like complex, and to me, it's not. Talk how you feel. Stop being ashamed and apologizing for your words. Even if it's stuff against me, and I saw somebody call me something racist against white, I'm like, is that how you feel? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, then we should probably talk about that, right? We should talk about it because
Right.
talking about it's how we're eventually going to find middle ground. Maybe we won't, but the attempt might be there. But just
Right.
acting
And
like
that's
we
what
don't mean it,
people have to be more comfortable with hearing things that aren't pleasant.
yeah, yeah. And you know me, I'm a direct person. I'm a direct person with
Mhm.
psychology. I'm a direct person when I talk about relationships with people. Ask my girlfriend if I'm direct. I'm direct with her. I'm direct about everything. You know why? Because being direct solves shit. It squashes it quick. And if it's a problem that can't be solved even after being direct, then we know it's a problem that might be walked away from forever. You know, the divide of two people, and that's okay. That's okay. That's called progress. Is what that's called.
Well, look, I mean, progress can be you just figure out, hey, I probably shouldn't be around that person. That's
Exactly. And you know
progress.
what? That's okay. We aren't all, I don't care what anybody says, we're all together. Humankind was never built for it. We're all wired differently. Doesn't mean we can't coexist, but for all
Well,
to,
that's the key. Like everybody thinks to coexist, you have to be close friends with everybody.
you don't
You
got to
don't.
love anybody. We just got to learn
Right.
that we just got to coexist. I mean, we're all
Right.
human beings at the end of the day. I don't care about your skin color, but culturally, we
Mhm.
are very different people. And, you know, hearing what the guy said about the Knicks, hearing all this, you know, I hate that every time this stuff comes up, Colin Kaepernick is the person to go to for the
Yeah.
NFL.
What? When did
I'm
he
like, dude,
become the
look,
poster boy for
he's
this?
done. He's not coming back in the league. Nobody wants him. Stop making him a subject. Start moving on to people who are actually in the league.
You know what I'd love? I would love for him to get signed somewhere and for him to attempt to play like in the
And just suck.
preseason and stink up the
Yeah,
joint.
yeah. I'd like it. Just be. I wouldn't like it like, oh, there you go, like towards one culture or another. I would like it just so that it could be just a dead freaking
Yeah,
subject.
because then it's over.
Yeah,
Then you can
because to
just say,
me,
okay,
like,
now it's gone.
okay, talk about your cause. Get over the individual who's once a part of it because he's no longer relevant. You're talking
Yeah.
about a dead carcass to me.
And to me, if he still wants to be involved in the process of trying to facilitate change, I'm fine with that. But stop making it about your NFL career.
Well, look, and what this comes down to, it's like politics, right? Anybody too radical will never be, you know, loved by the mass. You can't be too left, you can't be too right, you can't be too pro black, you can't be too pro white. Everybody's got to have like some kind of center of common sense for
Right.
people to take you seriously and listen to you on a microphone. And I think he's too. Well, first of all, he's never been on a microphone, and second of all, he doesn't when he speaks and he wears pig socks and things like that. No one's ever going to take him seriously without bias. And once you're looked at like that, I mean, in psychology, one of the best things you can ever think about and learn is you should never be all about, or you should never be all about one thing too much. Any one thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because when you are like that, unless, you know, it's one thing if you're trying to build something for a couple of years, you're real into it. But we're talking like if you're consumed by something all of your life, that means you're devoting energy to it, even when you're trying not to. It's devoted subconsciously at that point. And when you're like that, you're more drained, you're more angry, you're more like fearful. Like there's just all kinds of things that happen to your brain when you think like that. This is a psychology session, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, we're learning a lot more about that. But like you know, like you said, sometimes like progress is figuring out that you just shouldn't be around a person.
Yeah.
Well, just like you know, Eagles fans and Cowboys fans, the process there, figuring out how fundamentally Eagles punch Cowboys fans in the face.
What's funny is, you know, Cowboys have more fights in our stadium with Giants fans than any other team. I don't
That's
know what it is
funny.
with Giants fans. There are more physical fights in Dallas Stadium with Giants fans than any other type of fan.
And it's funny because Giants fans in Philadelphia, I feel like there's almost like a like yeah, obviously we're rivals, but it's like we kind of just laugh at each other something like more. And
I don't know.
like it's fun. Like we had routinely a couple Giants fans that would buy the seats right in front of us, and for the first couple times, it's like the Eagles pretty much have dominated the Giants for a while, and so
I think everybody's kind of dominated the
yeah,
Giants for a while. It's like
yeah, that's
Redskins
true. I mean,
probably
except for maybe the
dominated
Redskins.
Yeah. Hey, it's racist. Let's not talk about Redskins.
Oh, sorry, the Washington football team.
Who was the announcer?
Phil Simms.
It was on, I think it was on CBS. I think it was Phil Simms.
Simms.
Yeah, he's like, you won't say it. I'm like, get off the air. And guess what? He did.
Yeah, well, not by his own volition. It's like, look, we need somebody with a more vast vocabulary.
I never thought about that. I'm going to listen to a game next time and see if Nance or Romo say Redskins. I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't paid attention to it either.
I haven't paid attention to the psychic Romo.
And again, like the Redskins really haven't been in a lot of games where they've had the number one broadcast team for CBS.
Well, let's talk about this. Mahomes is supposed to be looking at signing a record contract.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's the top quarterback in the game right now, and it's time for his contract. So, I mean, he's going to be the highest paid player in the game.
But they said it's like going to be almost maybe $50 million plus a year.
I don't know how the Chiefs can afford that. What are they going to just have Mahomes play? He's going to have to play like three different positions. He's going to have to be the punter, the kicker, the quarterback, and like the middle linebacker.
I'm looking up.
William Hill coming your way with Amanda Guerra. I am Chris.
Well, I don't care about Amanda Guerra, but
it's interesting.
It looks like Patrick Mahomes said they may give him the first $200 million contract.
Wow.
Yeah. 4 years, valued at like $51 million a year. Yeah, $51.5 million a year is the rumor right now. What they're looking at.
Jeez.
So basically, the reason I'm bringing this up is what will this impact will this have on Dak Prescott's negotiations? Is he going to now think, hey, there's the market value now? And
then saying that $40 million is not unrealistic with Mahomes getting 51.
Yeah, and I say, hey, I agree with you. $40 million isn't unrealistic. We'll give you a 10-year deal valued at $40 million.
So $4 million a year.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. Keeping your $40 alive. Yeah. I am. If Dak is playing, game one, I'm gonna support Dak if he's gonna become our quarterback.
For sure, yeah.
I've said again, it's like my fourth video person. I am okay with Dak not being the starting quarterback if we're gonna put Andy Dalton in his place. I have confidence in Andy Dalton. He can play football.
Look, just because he tore it up in Katy, Texas, doesn't mean he can tear it up with the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, look, if you can, Katy, Texas could probably beat the Cowboys right now.
I'd buy a ticket for that game.
Can you imagine, like, if a high school team tried to play in the injuries? Injuries are what happened on that team. I used to think, and when I was younger, could the best college team beat the worst football team or NFL football team?
Right.
At the time, it was 95 Nebraska, and the worst team in 95 was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I remember going, I wonder if Grant Windstrom and Tommy Frazier could take the Buccaneers. And I really thought, man, Nebraska is pretty hardcore. They might be able to do it. But as I got older, I'm like, they probably couldn't have.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I gotta believe that, like who had the number one pick this year? The Bengals. If the Bengals played, if the Bengals played LSU, like the Bengals would have beaten them by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I wonder is, speaking of that, got Joe Burrow, coming out about some things. And, if you had a name like 95 Nebraska, Tommy Frazier, Grant Windstrom, Makovicka, Lawrence Phillips, that team, that is to me the greatest college football team I've ever watched play football that year. Period, across the board. We may have said that once. I forgot if we ever said who our greatest college football team ever is. Who'd you go with?
Oh,
94 Penn State? Was that you picked?
No, I wouldn't have said. Like, I still think they should have won the national championship that year, but against Nebraska.
Please, that would have been. And I like Penn State, and I do, but that would have been a whooping.
I don't think it would have.
Nebraska is just too Osborne. He just knew how to make his teams too physical. Ask Steve Spurrier.
I got to look at one of these Alabama teams in the last 6 years or so. Maybe the AJ McCarron led Bama teams. Those were phenomenal teams.
Yeah, that was a good team. Catherine Webb was pretty hot. That made the team better.
Obviously, that helps.
I mean, when
the year that what was that? 2011 or 12 or 13 when they whooped Notre Dame.
Yeah,
in the national championship game. I think I would have put. I think that's the team I would go with.
Who would be my runner-up? My runner-up might be '93 Florida State. With
that '93 Florida State team was pretty sick.
Yeah, and that was Tommy Frazier and them lost that game.
Right.
Orange Bowl, and I mean they didn't lose it by much. That's when they were on their way up. Mm-hmm. And I mean they would have had 3 national championships in a row had they won that one. But have we ever had a triple winner? No, right?
No.
Yeah, and both in the NFL and college, there's never been a triple winner. The Cowboys blew
it. Well, I mean, Notre Dame back in the day when they were winning their 100 national championships.
Well, anything after 1964 doesn't. Anything before that doesn't. I don't care about.
Right. Yeah.
That's when, you had wood bleachers and you didn't have a face mask and things were just different. If you had teeth, you were a bad football player. Like that.
Right. Yeah, my dad tried to talk about that with me. These teams back in the 50s. There's all right, old man.
Yeah. He's like, you should have seen this guy. His 7.740 would dominate.
Dad, you realize I could run a 7.740.
He's like, no, you can't. I got you clocked at a 7.78. I don't appreciate the lies.
Sorry, rounds up to a 7.8. Sorry.
Yeah, so let's see, who else? The Wolverines had a pretty good year. Was it 97 with Woodson?
Yeah, the year that because Osborne announced he was retiring.
That was my favorite, by the way. My absolute favorite Ohio State-Michigan game was that Woodson game. Man, what a game.
Yeah, when the championship committee gifted Osborne a retirement present of a co-national championship. Because I'm sorry, I was up there at Penn State when Penn State played Michigan that year. Michigan owned anybody they stepped on the field with that year.
Yeah. I'll disagree.
And I think they will whoop Nebraska.
In Nebraska's prime time, I don't think there's anybody that could beat them. That's how I feel.
But I'm saying that year, in 97, Michigan would have beaten Nebraska.
I don't agree, but I'm saying it would have been a contest for sure. Put it this way, I'd be one to say, I don't know who would have won the game. It would have been a major throwdown of physicality in thrashing. I'm
not a Michigan fan.
I would give this. Oh, I know that. I'd give the speed to Michigan for sure that year. I'd give the power still to Nebraska though. That their freaking option run at Nebraska was just sick. Even when people know they're running the option.
Was that Frost or Crouch then?
That was Frost.
Okay.
And that's when Frost said anywhere, anytime, any play, the whole speech.
Yeah, Nebraska, Michigan.
Yeah, or whatever. And my deal is that with Nebraska, you knew they were running the option. You knew it's going to the right, and they still would crush you doing it. You knew exactly where it's going, and they still smacked you. And when they had Lawrence Phillips, I was like, dude, there was nobody who was going to beat them when Lawrence Phillips was.
That Nebraska-Florida game, national championship game, that was just ridiculous. That was men against boys.
Yeah, that was Danny Werfel was the quarterback of that game. That's my favorite game I've ever watched because of the slaughter. And AJ Green, I think, was the receiver on that team, and Nebraska was I think Nebraska was ranked number 1 going into that game. I have the video. I can bring it up real quick. I think Nebraska was ranked number 1 anyways. But I just remember,
a lot of experts really thought Florida was going to win that game.
I just remember the amount of injuries. I have that on tape. I've gone back and watched it. There's 13 injuries on Florida just for how hard and how worked they got out by the Nebraska would lay them out, concussion half their team. They were just too freaking physical. It was crazy. And Danny Werfel, I remember the entry to the game. Of course, this is back when presentations in sports was lame. And it's on CBS, and it had the score, the box around the scores were all bright, almost like you had to turn, back when you had those TVs, you had to turn the contrast.
Yeah.
You're like, God, what is going on here? And it was Danny Werfel and Tommy Frazier. They had them in chaps and cowboy hats in the beginning of the game doing a shootout before the game started. It was really cheesy and stupid. But That was the game. More yards, more tackles. Oh my God, they don't have them yet. How many yards? Or they don't have them yet. It's called
How many tackles can one man break?
one man break. Look at Time Frazier go touchdown. Yeah, the run is as it's called. That's the greatest play I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen so much contact. But I look back and I'm like, dude, Spurrier, your guys can't wrap up. As part of the problem. Two guys actually physically had him. The other five licked him and then fell over. But man, greatest game I've ever watched because
Well, to
it's
me,
not my favorite as far as like competitiveness. Yeah. It's the greatest dominance I've ever seen in college football.
okay.
Yeah.
I would say the greatest dominance I know of in all of football. My favorite one was the 49ers and the Broncos in the Super Bowl, 55-10. I want to say it was Super Bowl 24.
Yeah.
I mean, from start to finish, San Francisco just outclassed the Broncos that day.
I remember
it always brought me great pleasure to watch John Elway fail. So
okay, the greatest dominance I've seen in a Super Bowl was San Francisco, but against the Chargers when they just
that was a really good one too.
Humphreys was like, "What's up, baby?" And then Humphreys was like, there was this tombstone, a little flower, and he was gone.
Well, right from the start when Young hits Rice on like the first play and they score, it's like, okay, I think this thing's over.
Yeah. I remember I had a bunch of friends in my room.
Yes.
I had my lights turned off. We had some girlfriends over. I think I was in 7th grade. I was in 7th or 8th grade, one of those years. And I'd bought like 80 sodas. And we got through like 4, and we're like, this game's over. This game's dead. Yeah. We were like, what are we watching? And then at that point, it just ended up to like make out time with the girlfriends and all that kind of stuff because we're kind of like, this ain't no game. And my favorite Super Bowl ever was probably Cowboys Steelers when we converted Deion Sanders to a wide receiver and a punt returner and everything. Basically, he was an all-around player. And the Steelers had, what's his name, Mr. All-Around himself. He did
Cordell
Stewart. But he wasn't the starting quarterback. I think that's when he was doing a dual role. It moved in.
Yeah, that was Neil O'Donnell was the starting quarterback. I remember the old joke was he had such a bad experience in the Super Bowl, he decided he never wanted to go back. Yeah. So he signed with the Jets.
Exactly. That's probably my favorite Super Bowl. And that was also Michael Jackson's iconic halftime show. And
right.
It was just a crazy Super Bowl.
Yeah, obviously my favorite Super Bowl, Super Bowl 52. Yeah, Eagles, Patriots.
Never heard of it.
I'll tell you, I have the Blu-ray. If you want to watch it.
Hey! Speaking of which, on that stuff, did you wrap up the Michael Jordan documentary?
Yes, I did.
Final thoughts on? Let's make that our going out conversation.
I mean, definitely a good story. Yeah, it makes the GM Reinsdorf really look like the ultimate villain in the whole thing.
For real.
Was. I mean, that team was really holding on by a thread at the end. But, I mean, Michael talked about it, and everybody talked about it. Everybody would have come back for a chance at 7. And, and winning 4 in a row. And I certainly did not understand the idea that when he says Phil Jackson could go 82-0, he's not coming back to coach the Bulls next year. This will be his last year. I just did not understand that approach. If he's having success, why? Even if you think, okay, these guys are all getting older, so you're not going to be able to realistically.
Why rebuild? Yeah, I never understood that. Why undercut another possible championship just to rebuild? I've never understood that.
But even if you don't believe you can bring Rodman and Pippen and company back, how do you not say, okay, look, Phil Jackson, if he wants to, can be a part of bringing this process back together and bringing some youth to this? I would be more just in favor, and especially in the NBA, bringing youth in gradually, not just wanting to blow the whole thing up and going, go nuclear.
Right.
Because I just feel like if you kept Michael and Scottie together, and even if you couldn't bring back Rodman, I feel like they would be in a position where they would groom a young guy that you could say, hey, you know what, that he could be the next Rodman.
Yeah. After watching it, I think my biggest takeaway is how screwed over Scottie Pippen was on money
Yeah,
and value and talent. The dude was the second best player in the league at one point, but he was the 112th paid player, highest
right.
paid player. And I'm sitting there like, never knew that. Never would have guessed that.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I
that's
would have thought he was
ridiculous.
like the second highest player. I would have thought, okay, they probably paid him like 15th highest player, highest paid. Like he would have been somewhere in that echelon.
Yeah, in that
He
top
got
20. Yeah.
screwed to the max.
Yeah, like that was just ridiculous. The fact that that was ever allowed to happen, and like once somebody knew that that wasn't fixed, like that's criminal.
Yeah. Look, I'm not even saying make him exactly to what his talent is, but I'm like, get him in the top 25. Like, for
Yeah,
God's sakes. Like, make your, and I get it. There's a business aspect too. Look, we can only pay so much in order to have so much talent. But I'm like, hey, at the time, even when he came out to renegotiation, you had the money. According to the show, the money was there. It was a choice of he didn't do a good enough in negotiating. And he tried to hold out, remember? And it
right.
basically had to show back up. Was like, look, they had all the leverage. They were going to win, so I might as well come back and play with my team. You know?
Yeah, and that's a shame. And the other thing that it really should, like, I always knew the story and hated the story. The series against the Knicks and the game in which Scottie Pippen, of course, this is when Michael wasn't there,
Right.
and when Pippen refused to go back into the game because the final play was drawn out for Tony Kukoc,
Yeah. He was upset.
and how bad that made Scottie Pippen look. I'm really glad that they, like, I expected, since it was going to be a pro bowl story, that they were going to kind of glance over that and be like, oh yeah, Scotty made this.
No, this is a real documentary, man.
They really, yeah, no, that, like, kudos to ESPN. That was really well done. They covered it well, and Scotty talked about his regret there, and that Michael had talked and said, man, he's gonna really regret that. That's gonna haunt him for a long time.
Yeah, whenever you hold out in front of your fan base for them to all see it,
Right.
you look like the quitter. And they won the game without him, so it was the right call.
Right,
It
and
makes you look bad.
they win the game, and they go back into the locker room, and like they should have been on cloud nine, but instead, right away the talk was, Scotty, you quit on us,
Yeah.
and like he had to address that and do it after a win.
Now, from what I know, ESPN is now working on a Brady docuseries. And to me, it's too soon. Like, I want people to
Yeah,
be
I
out of
want to
the
see
league.
it play out.
Yeah, I want it to be out of the league. I want the Patriots dynasty to kind of really come to an end. And then, maybe 5 years from then, do a documentary on it, on the whole thing.
Yeah,
Well, the difference is, though, I mean, how much are you really going to – I don't know how much you're really going to get, given – like, look, Phil Jackson was more than willing to be like, hey, here's everything that went down. I don't see Belichick being like, yeah, here's everything that went down.
well, at least not until he's out of the league.
Even then, I see him still being very political, like making sure things are said in a certain way. I think Phil Jackson, I was very enlightened by who he was, like as a career man and whatnot. I didn't know a lot about him, and I didn't know that the dude was like, you're fired. I don't care if we win another championship or not, you're fired. And I'm like, dude, are you stupid? Is your name Jerry Jones? Is your name Jerry Jones? That's exactly, as a Cowboy fan, it's exactly went through my mind immediately upon hearing that. You would fire a championship winning coach. You're a fucking idiot.
Well, and it's funny because one of the things I was going to bring up to you and ask you is, what other team, like what other group would you like to see a similar documentary done about? And this is going to sound odd coming from me, diehard Eagles guy.
Yeah.
I would love to see a documentary about those 90s Cowboys teams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Because I'd like to hear, like, when Emmett held out for money, wasn't playing the first couple games, like the whole controversy there. I'd love to get all the opinions.
Well, and I'd love to get the story, the build up to it, like Jerry Jones's firing of Landry, and then bringing in Jimmy Johnson and everything about the Herschel Walker trade.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to be had there for sure.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. And they did the greatest dynasty, of the 90s. And I think it's good because that's almost 25 years ago, right? So it's like perfect. And it's been 25 years since the Cowboys dynasty, basically. So I'm like, it's perfect to do one on them. Basically, of the 90s. And then in 10 years, do whoever dominated 2000 through 2010. Like every 25 years.
That's when you do the Patriots.
Yeah, exactly. And look,
And look, I enjoyed the ESPN 30 for 30, the Four Falls of Buffalo.
I haven't watched that.
Oh, that's another good watch.
Okay.
Um, and I would love for them to break that down even more and give us more about what went into the Bills. And again, I want to get behind the scenes. I want to get the building blocks, how they chose the coaches, how they chose the
Hey, that's
GM.
why I like Hard Knocks. I
Yeah.
like to know what's going on management wise and stuff too. Player operations, cutting players. How does all this work? What's said? Like how do you all
Right.
operate without making people irate on you?
I love the way, like when they showed, I believe it was the Texans one where I really got the view on that, where Bill O'Brien called him and or the GM, he would call him in, and before they got started anything, I just want to let you know we are releasing you today, and here's how the process is going to work.
Speaking of which, we should be hearing an announcement for Hard Knocks at some point.
Yeah, I mean, look, everything
Let me
about
look.
the NFL, like they're trying to say things are on schedule and everything's going to like, I would think that that would be a conversation. Who's going to be on Hard Knocks this year?
Oh wow! The HBO series Hard Knocks is planning to feature both NFL teams. The Los Angeles teams, the Rams and the Chargers, are expected to be on it. Dual.
Oh wow!
They're going to do a dual presentation this year. That's cool. Something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
They both
excited.
suck.
To see that.
I don't have interest in any one of them, so you're not wasting by putting both of them in the same feature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, look, I have some interest in, like, I know we've talked a lot before in other episodes about the dysfunction of the Chargers franchise. I think that's going to be interesting to see it.
Yeah, that's true. I like their coach, but man,
Yeah, their management is just awful. Their coach is fantastic.
It's hard to believe that there's only 32 teams in the league, and that any one team could be that bad after this many years and still not be semi-competitive or gone through some really good structural changes.
Look, I just still get blown away by the fact that the NFL and the players in their collective bargaining agreement put in place the structure for how you have rookie contracts, and yet they are still the only team in this setup that has had a rookie hold out. How the hell are you not able to sign a guy when you know how much you have to sign him
We're
for?
talking about the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're cheap. Remember Bosa? Same scenario.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Joey Bosa thing, where they wanted to back up some of the money in some kind of insurance way. Like they wanted to not guarantee a certain amount. You have to pay him a certain salary based on where he was picked. Like there's really no wiggle room.
Yeah, I don't. Look, you know me, I'm a hater of the Chargers because of their management. I like their players. I've never liked their team. So.
Yeah. And it's a shame. They've had some really good players. Some of my all-time favorites, like Junior Seau was one of my all-time favorite players. And, they just wasted his career.
And he wasted himself.
I wasn't going to go there.
But now I read, that'd be a good documentary on Junior Seau's life, like how he slipped into depression and stuff like that. Hey, speaking of which, have you watched the movie with Will Smith on CTE?
I haven't watched that. I've been meaning to watch.
Very interesting movie. It did make me go, oh, I totally side with the players, but it did make me go, I see what he's saying. He basically takes I can't give away the movie, but he takes a bottle of water. He's I forgot his job. The guy that basically looks at your brain for when doing your the morgue guy. Who's the guy that cleans you all up? Coroner. There we go.
Okay.
Anyways, but he's watching the football game and he's talking to this girl and he goes, "You know what's happening right now?" And he has a brain in a bottle. And he takes the brain and he goes like this. Every time there's a hit, he swishes it and it hits the bottle. And it hits the bottle and the tissue's hitting the bottle. And he's going, there is nothing between your brain and the skull. It sits in a water barrier. And when it jiggles, it hits the skull. And that's what he's trying to emphasize. Is he gets why he couldn't understand why he had so many players coming in the morgue from Steelers. He worked in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And he kept saying, hey, one of the players was basically losing his mind, pulling his teeth out and using super glue and putting them back in, pulling out his hair, electrocuting himself. And he's like, what is wrong with this guy? And then the guy basically died. So he did the autopsy on him. And he said at his age, there's absolutely no reason he should have gone that route so fast, so rapidly. he said, something's wrong here. He goes, this is unlike anything I've ever seen. And this guy had 7 degrees, 7 medical degrees. This dude's like genius off the board.
So you're saying he's probably smarter than me?
No, probably not smarter than you. I mean, you are probably the smartest person I know.
Aside from everybody else?
You're the only person I know. I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, the dude's pretty smart. He makes some really good points. I like the visualization of the bottle with the brain in it with water, and he's slamming it against the thing. You're like, dude, when you think about it like that, dude, that does seem like that would jack up your brain pretty good.
Yeah.
And he's saying the reason why we don't pick up on it because it makes little hemorrhages inside each little vessel. And the brain, over time, those clot create scarring and blood can no longer flow to those areas. And you start thinking about it, you're like, okay, I see your point. I see what you're saying. I wouldn't end football over it, but I'd say, yeah, it's good that we're taking measurements. And it's also another reason to me why the NFL has no excuse. And this is one place, normally I side with kind of the corporation or the systematic part. I do not side with the NFL when it comes to health insurance. If you have played football, to me, 7 years or longer in the league, you should have a lifetime of health insurance. The league can afford it. There's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't provide it. That's my opinion. Now, you shouldn't be able to come in the league, play for a year, and be out and be like, okay, you take care of me for the rest of my life. I think they should make a rule. Either you're in there 7 or 10 years. Once you,
I think it should be rookie contract. If you play out your whole rookie contract, which is 3 or 4 years, I think you should get lifetime membership.
To me, I feel like I need more investment from a player than that. I need to know your health suffered because of playing.
Yeah, but the average NFL career is 2.5 years?
I don't know. I played for 10.
Well, that's probably why you can't do the math on it.
Damn, dude. Water, brain. I pass out. But no, I think there just needs to be more reason for me to believe that the league has caused physical, damage to your body over time. To me, and I know the league's intense and whatnot, and 3 years can be like a lifetime of pain and whatnot. I just think if I work at a job, they're not going to give me guaranteed retirement without some vested time. I think the NFL has a good excuse in that degree, but what I don't like is the NFL doesn't offer it at all. And I think that's insane.
Yeah, that's crap.
Yeah, that's insane. I'm like, dude.
We're quibbling over years. And to me, that's fun. That's a negotiating point.
Yeah, exactly.
You're saying 7 or 8 years. I'm saying 3
I say
years.
7 to 10. If they said 10, I say, okay. I say 7's better because not everybody can make it to 10. But I say if you give 7 years and someone can hang in the league and play for 7 years, and then you give them – doesn't even have to be the best insurance ever. Just give them good, mediocre insurance. Don't give them the shittiest plan ever. Don't give them some gold plan or make it tiered. You get this plan if you play over 7 years. If you play over 13 or 10, you're on this plan, just so you can say, hey, we get it. The longer you're in, the more likely you are to have certain kinds of damages to you.
Right.
I don't know, but when I see like Dick Butkus, this guy that you make tons of money off of, you still sell his jerseys, you still sell his name, and this guy has to pay for his own health insurance, and he played at a time where you didn't get $30 million contracts when he's still a face of the NFL, but he's suffering and has a hard time paying his health care. I'm like, dude, that's bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bullshit, man.
That guy is one of the staples. That guy is one of the reasons why you have sold out stadiums every week.
Yeah.
And
and I think part of the agreement should be not retro pay. Like, we're not going to go and give you money, but we're going to make you eligible to get on insurance now. Yeah.
Yeah. Just take care of him now. You don't have to go back pay.
We get it. You probably should, but that's probably a losing argument. So it's probably a waste of time to me to even shoot for. So go.
Well, that's something the players should put in there and then be willing to concede later.
Yeah, and this, go for something immediate impact, being like, hey, on the first of the following month after this agreement, you're eligible for our insurance. Sign up and go to whoever you want at that point. I just think the NFL at this point, every team makes about $266 million in profit per year after expenses. And when I look at that, and the league is making hand over fist, and they're increasing by like 14% every year in revenue, I'm like, cool. And back in the day, you had an argument. We financially couldn't do it. Now you can. So do it.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100% agree.
And I think covering everybody, the league would probably drop an 80% in profit of money they have. I get it from a business perspective why they don't want to cover everybody. I get it.
Like you said, guys who have been invested in the league.
Yeah, and just make it like They just need to make a number. So who's knocking on my door? Anyways, all right, well, close it up.
All right. Well, everybody, I want to thank everyone for joining us. This has been quite the show. We got off into some different directions, maybe, And again, you understand, guys, it's okay to have different opinions than us if you do. And we certainly welcome you to share that, and just make sure to be respectful of everybody. And we can have a passionate debate without personal attacks. And I just want to encourage that. I want to encourage just participation in all of our shows, and make sure to go and view all things Phillyverse, as we are connected with them on Facebook and all the other social media platforms. And make sure to join all the Phillyverse shows, starting, of course, with Monday with Football Smack Talk show at 7:30 Eastern Time. Then Tuesday nights we have the Philly Broadcast with Ryan and Ryan at 8:30 Eastern Time. And then Wednesday nights, right here exclusively on YouTube, we have Mike Sports with myself and Landry. And then Thursday nights, we close out your week. Well, I guess some people work Fridays, but Thursday nights, myself and Joe, we do Tables, Ladders, and Chairs podcast, where we tackle all things wrestling. So everybody, have a great night, and see you next time.